There we go. Hello, hello. Check it out. I got a new camera, and I think it looks fantastic. I'm gonna use it for my talking head moments in my YouTube videos. It's off to the side. I'm gonna do a whole sort of demo of of this new test bench that I've configured. Hold on. We're just gonna do. I'm gonna set up another screen. Base. Hey, how's it going, Paul? Okay, that seems to be working. Can you all hear me all right? Let's take a look. Hey, look, also the Discord stream announcement works. That's pretty sweet. We're making progress. The stream gets better every time. I'm just gonna grab my stats, throw them over here. Hey, Parkerman, how's it going? Pretty good. Didn't take your advice and bought a 2020 MacBook Pro and installed Arch on it. Hated it, installed Kubuntu instead. Yeah. Oh, hey, bud. Folks, my dad's in the stream. Very exciting. All right. Oh, yeah, I made a bunch of upgrades recently. Pretty excited about all that. Like, okay, one more time. We're gonna be doing this bunch. Anytime some like a regular viewer appears in chat, I'm gonna be doing wait, one of these. I'm so impressed with the quality of this camera. I mean, it better be good. Like, it's a Fujifilm X-T20. It's a good camera. I just, in my head, I didn't quite compute the difference between that and the webcam. What's up, Father Laundry? Hell yeah, good man. Headed to Toronto in a few minutes. Oh, cool. I am also Toronto located. Wave your hand quickly. I think I've got this set for 60 frames per second, so it should look much more responsive than the webcam. I've been playing around with some basic recordings and things like that, and it has looked it has looked quite nice. Maybe I can do a preview on stream. Let me take a look. All right, we're gonna be doing a little vibing today because this Kubernetes stuff, as you're all well aware if you were at the last stream, is way above me. And so I need a little extra guidance. We're going to do our best to not straight up vibe code. I want to know things by the time we're done, you know? Like, I want to properly understand what's happening, but a little assistance will be nice. But anyways, check this out. This is a little video I'm working on, and then I'll show off the test bench. Oh, that's going through. I probably am going to get echo this way. Let me just do that. Do you guys see the preview? Oh, my desktop audio is super quiet.
Graphics power in these.
There we go.
People have been using them in their Homelabs to serve HD content through Plex and Jellyfin servers. With the Steam Deck making Linux handheld gaming a thing, there's been a lot of progress in these low-powered, console-like Linux gaming devices. And so I'm curious if we can make home with Casio.
There we go. So that's a little preview. That's something I've been working on with the new camera. And I want to show off my test bench a little bit. So let's go ahead, pop over here. Not that face, this face. This is the webcam, right? So I set up this little, let's see if we can do this, secondary thing. Hey, Plus, how's it going? I set up this little secondary workbench beside my main thing, so that I can test out hardware quickly and easily. I'm clipping a little bit. 1 second. Let's adjust this audio just a touch. Go something like, well 22. That might be better. Yeah. There we go. We're not full on clipping. We're just punching up to the red. That's the kind of audio we like. Okay. So, set up this bench because I want to do some like basic level welcome to Linux stuff, right? I think I've gotten quite a few questions. Wait, gets me every time. I've gotten quite a few questions about beginner Linux distros. And then also on stream, sometimes we need to set up a new device. And I want to capture that BIOS level stuff, things pre-boot. And I haven't been able to do that until now. So now, what I've done is I've got an HDMI splitter. And then one of those goes to like a cheap HDMI capture card that I've got set up, and the other goes to this little monitor. So let's actually give that a little test. So this is the test bench, right? That's my face. Let's prop that up a little bit. That's my face, and that is the current output. But if we launch Chewy at the test bench, we should hopefully get some visual. Yes, okay, yeah, look at that, it works. So you can see what's happening on these things. I'm gonna use this to record, like maybe stuff at the kernel level would be really cool. I do wanna do a video on how to use Debian testing as a platform or as your desktop, your main workstation. I think that'd be cool, and that would require maybe some kernel level changes and things like that. I also want to do just like a super basic welcome to Linux. Oops. Let's go. I want to do a really basic welcome to Linux with Linux Mint. I think that would be fun. And I don't want to skip any steps, right? Because if we're doing hello, welcome to Linux, it's not that scary as a video, then we need to show people like, I am now plugging the USB into a USB-A port. And the USB-A port is the rectangular one. The USB-C port is kind of rounded and smaller, and it's what you see on your phone probably. We're probably going to want to get down to that level. And then I don't want to just tell them like, hey, when you boot up, just slam F2 or F11 maybe, whatever works on your machine, and then go to the boot menu. Because if they're, again, at that level, then go to the boot menu and select your USB drive is that's not gonna slam home, right? So yeah, that's why I'm setting this up. Should be able to do some more streaming of hardware level stuff. I also want to test out CachyOS's handheld gaming mode, and I'm going to test that out on Chewy to see if it can handle like indie titles. That'll be kind of fun. So anyways, I'm sort of procrastinating here because Kubernetes is hard, and I had a long day, a long day at work. So I kind of wanted to just spend a couple minutes recovering, having my coffee, and chatting with all of you before we get into things. Maybe showing off a little bit about what I've been working on, behind the scenes type of stuff. So if you want to tell me what you're up to and stuff like that, that would be super cool. I just want to chat a little bit before diving right in. In the meantime, we can talk a little bit. What else? What else have I been up to? Hold on. Let's go back to the desktop. As you can see in my Proxmox setup, I've got a number of things in testing. I've been messing around with Cache Handheld, which actually failed in a VM, which is kind of interesting. I wonder what that means. Played around with Mint a little bit for my video, hopefully Friday. I don't know if I'm going to do the CachyOS video or the Mint video. We'll see. But this is kind of cool. I also started playing around with a thing called Rust Desk. Got it done. So I'm just trying to connect it to my camera server. Oh, interesting. Very cool. How's that going so far? Are you doing like a home network security system with Frigate or something like that? See ya, Parkerman. Thanks for dropping by. Good luck with the GitOps business today. Thank you. Once I build up the courage to get to it. We're almost there, I swear. Connection error. What the? Okay. So, oh, I need to eject the, whoa. I need to eject the boot media from this. Hold on. Shut that down. And then, I think hardware. Yes. Need to get, do not use any media. Wow, I'm glad that I learned that. That's pretty cool. Hey Tim, how you doing? Renax says, "Hi, I just joined it. It sounds like you are knowledgeable. I have a server without USB ports and only serial. I want to install Proxmox on another device. And so if I can make it run, see if I can make it run. Do you think it's doable?" Um, that's a tough one. So I will do my best to approximate being knowledgeable, but I am far from an expert. I will say, I was okay. Come on, let's stop this VM real quick. I was looking at Ventoy. Ventoy is a tool that I use for booting multiple different ISOs. But as I was looking at Ventoy, they released iVentoy, which is built on a tool that allows you to boot from network locations. GNU Screen can also establish /dev/ttys connections for serial. Oh, okay, that could work. Install an SSD, transfer it over after setting IP. Okay. Blue Iris. I got these super cheap Wi-Fi ones for free, and they would call out to the internet, and you could only view them in the company's app. That is... wow. Damn. So at this point, you're now... Sorry, Paul. I'm jumping between 6 conversations. I gotta like go one at a time. So, Paul, you're taking these cameras and now you're hooking them into your own like self-hosted situation. Is that what's happening with that? Because that seems pretty cool. Cool. And then Renax says, yeah, but I need to specify IP ports, right? I think so. I've never done this. So I'm gonna pass this in. And then I'm also going to... Let's take a look at what a PXE server is first. Because this was something I was reading on just recently. Do it on Proxmox install. Cool. Most often pronounced as Pixie. That's useful. Describes a standardized client-server environment that boots a software assembly retrieved from a network on PXE-enabled clients. On the client side, it requires only a PXE cable network interface controller. And uses a small set of industry standard network protocols such as DHCP and TFTP. That might be it. That might not be it. Yeah, this is, I think, beyond what I'm aware of. So without USB ports and only serial, I want to install Proxmox on another device and see if I can make it run. Problem with PXE is you need a display to still go through the installer. I see. Okay, so this is probably not our solution. So there's a specific TTY that's serial connections for serial. Okay, well, let's take a look at that briefly. And then we'll start talking about some Kubernetes stuff. GNU Screen, TTYS. I will skip the AI overview for this. Switching to computer. I'm trying to use this to connect an old computer's through a USB serial interface. Oh man, we're talking about baud, parity. This is lower level than I'm super familiar with. I think at this point, I hate to task plus with things, but you might be best off asking around because this is beyond me. I have a server rack with multiple servers at home. None of them have GPUs. This is how I do it. Oh, interesting. Okay. Install Proxmox on the SSD in another machine, then set static IP when booted, then transfer SSD to other host. Oh, that's kind of cool. That's a good trick. Okay, I think Paul's trick seems the easiest as long as the hardware is similar enough between the two devices. Plus says, I usually use Screen as a client on RS-485 connections. You need to know your parity bits and such things. Okay, yeah. Tim says, I'm doing good. Just got back from it being really rainy outside. How am I doing? I'm doing all right. Honestly, I'm a little tired. This week has been tough at work. I am sort of grinding through this project. Let's go back to the face while I chat. I've been grinding through this project that I can't talk about. But it's hard. It is pushing me beyond what I know how to do. Work usually does, which is a good thing because it means I'm learning. But sometimes it feels bad to not have made a lot of progress that you can demonstrate, especially in a work environment where you kind of feel like I really want to be able to show that I'm productive. And then I've been working on this stuff, this new test bench and videos and things like that. So I'm a little tired this week, to be honest. But I have been looking forward to streaming. I find these days, like as I approach Thursday, I'm like looking forward to chatting with you all. It's become like when I first started, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to I wouldn't have enough energy to do all this, after work and all that jazz. But I found I look forward to it. I wake up on Thursday and I'm like, yay, I get to stream today and talk to the chat and everything. So that's got me going. What else we got? So my Dave says, there are terminal servers that put the serial connections on a network connected host you can SSH to. That put serial connections on a network. Oh, that's really cool. Okay. Paul says, actually, so what I mentioned about the hardware stuff probably doesn't matter because Proxmox has everything built into the kernel. So I guess that's pretty cool. Renax says, just joined on computer kind of makes it easier. Okay, cool. Now that I've got a little bit of my yapping done, and I'm feeling kind of good, let's talk about the Kubernetes goals we have today and how we got there. So we'll sum up what we did last week and then chat a little bit more. One last thing. Renax says, I have a SAN basically and want to make it work. I don't have any USB outputs and I can only connect using serial. I was also thinking about installing it on another device and moving the SSD over. So it looks like we have common solutions here for that. Paul's got a good idea on that. And then it looks like there's two pretty good sort of network solutions from Plus and from Dave. I feel weird calling my dad Dave, but whatever. Okay. It's so that you guys know who I'm talking about. Okay. Let's go to the desktop and start chatting about what our situation is with AdGuard and that stuff. So I've got AdGuard at the laundromat. That's, I'm going to see if I can make that my setup, right? And what we realized last week was that the version of AdGuard Home that I've got running on my Kubernetes cluster is old as it's really old. It's really old. And then I found out that Kate's at home, we're looking for AdGuard. Kate's at Home's AdGuard is really old. This is the Helm chart that we used because I was hoping that we would get that, as Helm advertises it, the package manager of Kubernetes experience. I was hoping we would get that. We did not. We did not. It turns out this sort of approach does not seem to be well supported in the Kubernetes space. And it looks like there are other things that go about. There are other approaches that seem to be more common. So we'll talk about that, how I got there, and then get to that. But basically, this Helm chart hasn't been updated in the last 3 years. It looks like Kate's at Home is kind of dead, is my understanding. Or at least they're not updating these charts. So I was like, great. How then do I there's got to be a way to just plug in the newest image, right? Like I would in Docker Compose, I should just be able to like pull an image and run that with some extra setup, right? That's got to be possible. And so I started looking, and by looking I mean ChatGPTing, and then I always pair my chat with Googling and learning and all of that. But it looks like a very common approach is to use app templates that basically take a large values file and render that to even more YAML, because YAML is a programming language now, I guess. So I started looking. I think I'm here, and this guy, BJWS Labs, has a bunch of really useful Kubernetes stuff. I'm probably going to start looking even more into this person's Docker, sorry, not Docker, whole Git, because there's some really cool stuff. But yeah, what else we got? Okay, so Tim says, just playing some Black Ops 3? Nice, dude. Black Ops 3 was my favorite Call of Duty game. Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 1. Custom zombies. Nice. Cool. Have fun, man. What else we got here? PXN Emerica says, or install Home Assistant. We've got Home Assistant. That was one of our first projects on the stream, and it's been a ton of fun. Plus is sharing some super common configurations for RS-232. That should be useful to you, Rinax. And yeah, let's get back over here. So here's the problem, right? The problem is these Helm charts are not up to date, and I don't really trust this as a like Kubernetes for Home as a community to keep things super up to date. It looks like that's just not very common. And so, however, this repo has been really active with app templates that we can configure. And so then we can set our image version to whatever we want. So for example, if I'm looking at this long values file of that's an example for AdGuard, we can just set, we can just set image, set the repository, set the tag, and pull the most recent containers, or images. That's cool. There we go. I want to be very clear about my distinction between image versus container. We're going to try our best to use the correct terminology as often as possible, because that's important. So that's step one. I want to see if we can just get this up and running using these templates. That should be cool. Let's take a look at our notes. If you're new here, by the way, I keep these like markdown docs basically for every project we work on, right? That way we can track what we've been up to. I'm still thinking up a way to publish these or something like that. I haven't really figured that out yet, but we'll get there. Should be, Heat and C says, should be able to do that directly through the normal Helm chart values. Okay. Yes, I think that's true. But you end up with like much larger YAML files is what I'm hearing. So these templates just like cover a lot of boilerplate for you is my understanding. So we're going to go down that route to keep things smaller. However, I imagine given the way that I am, which is usually like I want to see all the boilerplate and I want control over low level stuff. I also want to understand it. We're probably going to move that direction eventually, but as a like brand new Kubernetes beginner, right? I do need some hand holding. So we're gonna allow for some hand holding in this setup, and see where it takes us. The other thing, if we're super productive today, is I want to do some GitOps stuff, because I'm already like immediately we're looking at all this YAML, and obviously if we're looking at this YAML, I want to put it somewhere that's safe, not just my machine, right? And so naturally I'm like, okay, we're gonna put it in Git, and then if we're putting it in Git, then we get to version control it, and that's great. And then, well, why not use that to just deploy, right? So I'm interested in ArgoCD, which basically is a service that allows you to point your Kubernetes cluster or ArgoCD itself to a GitHub repository or something else hosting your YAML files, your Kubernetes manifests. And whenever it detects a change in those manifests, it just goes, sweet, let's update the cluster so that it matches that state. And that's really interesting to me because this is the kind of stuff that I'm interested in doing professionally. So for again, those of you who are new here, I'm far from an expert. I really like this stuff. I want to do it professionally. And so a lot of this stream is me learning on the fly. And while also like orienting my Homelab such that what I learn is professional or like professionally oriented. So that's why, for example, I'm using Kubernetes here instead of Docker Compose. Docker Compose would make a lot more sense for a little Homelab. Kubernetes makes more sense because I want to learn Kubernetes for my work. Cool. My friend, I apologize. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm going to guess Ian Domsgeden. Are using the Ubuntu GUI OS. I have the Ubuntu server, but it is very cumbersome to do even the most simple things because it has to be done via CLI commands. No. So I'm what am I doing? I've got a lot of setup. This here is my Arch Linux desktop. It's using Omarchy, which I'm a huge fan of. And then for my servers, for my main server, I'm running Proxmox, which is like a virtual machine orchestration environment built on top of Debian, which gives you this nice GUI that you're looking at now. And this lets me spin up virtual machines. After that, I'm running my Kubernetes cluster as a set of 2 nodes that are virtual machines themselves. That's kind of what I'm doing. I will say, if you're interested in Homelabbing, you may want to get a little bit more comfortable with your CLI. It just tends to be the way people work with their servers. It also saves some processing power if you can run them what we call headless. However, there's a really cool application. I forget what it's called. It's Linux Cockpit. This is a kind of a cool project that lets you look at a server through a web GUI. You need to install it on your on your server first, but then you do get to configure things through a GUI, and this might actually be really helpful to you. Maybe we'll do a stream on it one day. Okay, so we kind of know what we're doing here. ArgoCD is cool. We need to update AdGuard Home. We're thinking about these Helm charts. These template Helm charts, and we're gonna take it from there. I will be using ChatGPT for some help today. My rule with ChatGPT is I have 2 rules. Don't copy paste, right? I'm going to go through and look at all of these values, and the way that I'm going to get myself to do that is to type them up. This forces you to read them, so you're not just like glazing over and pasting things. The other thing is I will be searching things up and verifying because I am hesitant about AI hallucinations. I'm just not 100% hard opposed to using LLMs entirely. Okay, so today's goals are update to the new BJWS app templates to upgrade AdGuard Home to the newest image. Cool. I guess spin down the existing AdGuard Home config. Cool. And then install and configure, what's it called? ArgoCD. That's what we're up to today. So the first thing we're going to do is figure out how the heck you get rid of an existing pod. So you can see we've got AdGuard Home running already. This is good, but we don't like this configuration, so we need to find a way to kill it. I don't know how to do that, so I'm going to just type kube control and see if there's a delete or something like that. Delete. Delete resources by file name, standard in resources and names, or by resources and label selector. Okay, so maybe we can do cube control get pods, cube control delete AdGuard Home. The server doesn't have a resource type. Okay, pods. Can we do a TLDR cube control? Label pods. Get all. Get cube control top. There's a top. That's kind of cool. Sorry, I'm really hungry, guys. Okay. Okay. So how does this work exactly? Cube control delete. Delete resources by file names, standard in resources and names. JSON and YAML formats are accepted. Hmm. Okay. Delete all pods. Wow. I don't think we want to do that. Okay. But it looks like we can delete just a pod. So, I wonder how that interacts with services. I assume if we bring down the pod, then the services will also go down. However, maybe cd projects, and we're going to go Kubernetes, cd apps, AdGuard Home. I've got this DNS and Ingress. Maybe I can pass it these files, and it'll just delete whatever's configured there. F AdGuard DNS.yaml. Okay. And then let's try this Ingress. Okay. Now, so I assume we deleted two services. No, we deleted a service and we deleted an ingress route. So now if I do get pods, we still have that, but cube control get services, which I think you can do service. Yes. They're still up. No external IP now. Okay, no, that's expected. Okay. So that didn't do what I hoped it would do. We're just going to try cube control delete. And how do we tell it the type? Type name. So delete pods. And then let's see, can I do this? No, I have to give it this full name guy. Oops. So now, if we do cube control get pods, it's draining. We have 0 out of 1 ready. However, the status says it's running. Okay. And we still have services. This is now not running though. So this is progress. Wow, it spun back up. Isn't that interesting? So when I delete one, so right now I'm gonna guess Kubernetes has an understanding of what I want it to look like, right? What the state I want. And so when I delete a pod, it assumes that I need to bring it back up. That's interesting. So maybe we need to do this at the Helm level, because this is how we did it. We installed a chart. Maybe we uninstall. Helm, uninstall, AdGuard Home. Okay. Nice. Okay. You may have a deployment managing the pods. That's got to be what's happening. So, learned. that recreated it. That must be what's happening. Helm manages, so when you install via Helm, uninstall via Helm, Helm, we think, manages a deployment. So if you try to delete a service or pod, it'll spin it back up. Back up to the deployment's desired state. I think that's what's happening, which kind of makes sense. That makes sense. So let's do that, and we can say we have successfully. Is it like that? Yeah, there we go. We've successfully spun down the existing AdGuard Home config, and now this leads nowhere. We're happy. Good job, team. Oops, there we go. Okay. So here's where I'm going to need to lean on ChatGPT a little bit. So I was basically looking at, like, what does this template give us, right? Let me walk you through the conversation I was having. I was curious what this template does. Like, what exactly are we getting templated out? Because I was looking at this values file, and I'm like, this is a fairly large values file. This looks like it's doing most of the stuff. What's actually happening? So it looks like there's quite a bit more to be done. So first off, we do get a deployment, which is rendered out from this. We also get this sort of service specification, another service specification, and ingress and PVCs. And so all of this is configured. It just requires more YAML, and it looks like this template avoids a lot of that. I think that's just what we're going to go with. So I'm going to drop this link in the chat. If anyone's interested, this is what we're working with, and I also want to give credit where credit's due. So let's see first if there's like a blog on this that we can give better credit to instead of, oh snap, hey look, my newsletter shows up. By the way, if you're interested in what I do, we have a weekly newsletter that I kicked off this week, where I sort of give sneak peeks and also an overview of what I've been up to. Also, Substack's rendering of the code block sucks, so I might want to move, but we'll figure that out later. Yeah, it looks like there are minimal tutorials on this. We're just gonna have to wing it. We're just gonna have to wing it. Okay. I am interested in this. What happens if we just do a Helm repo add this guy's Helm charts? And then we go Helm, what is it? Helm search repo? Search repo BJWS. What do we get? A common powered chart template. Okay. Function library, common powered chart template. Kubernetes admission controller. No idea. So we're just going to use that app template. That's our plan. I suppose I'll write about this at some point, but let's take a crack. So I want to learn a little bit more about Helm template. Helm template. What exactly does that mean? Wow. Okay. Render chart templates locally and display the output. Any values that would normally be looked up or retrieved in cluster will be faked locally. Any values that would normally be looked up or retrieved in cluster will be faked locally. Okay. Additionally, none of the server-side testing of chart validity is done. Okay. So it looks like we've added this guy's repo with app template. And then I can use Helm template and fill it with some values, and it'll spit it back out to me. Okay, I'm going to yoink this for now. I know I said I don't copy paste, but I want to see what this gives me. So if I go, yeah. We're just going to remove, hey, you know what, AdGuard. This is going to be values.AdGuard Home. Let's just do AdGuard YAML. I didn't even give it a thing. I can do nvim this. Okay, so I just want to see what happens when I do this. So we do Helm template, AdGuard. Now, what is this parameter? Is this the name of the deployment we're about to set up? Can I do Helm template? Can I do a TLDR Helm template? Nah, that would be super cool. Okay, can I do this? Do we have that at all? Oh, look at that. So Helm helps us create charts, add repos, list, update, remove, install, name, repository name, chart name, download Helm chart as a tar archive. That's cool. Helm dependency update. Okay, so this doesn't tell us what we need to know. Maybe a man Helm template. No? Man Helm? Nope. Okay. Let's take a look at this. Name, chart, flags. All right. All right, let's just do it. Helm template, AdGuard. And the line is, so this is the template, right? And so it's saying chart. Right, yeah. That's why we're giving it BJWS, and then we're saying app template. Yep. Okay. Now, it's recommending that I put this in a networking namespace. I'm not going to do that yet. I don't want to play around with namespaces other than default just yet. I think it's a fool's errand to overly organize and configure things before you know what's happening and what you're doing. So we're going to avoid that. And we're just going to do -F for our file, and we're going to grab values, AdGuard YAML. Okay, values don't meet the specifications of the schemas in the following charts. Must validate one and only one schema. Okay, cool. So, what does this mean? I'm guessing what this means is ChatGPT has come up with some nonsense. That's my guess, right? That's my guess. And so, what would be best if we could find some examples of values things that actually work? Preferably from somebody else's configuration. All right. Gabe565. Last updated 7 months ago. Okay. Geez, that is a lot of config. Okay. Default AdGuard Home config file. This will only be copied if an existing config does not exist. Interesting. I don't just want to install this guy's chart, even if it is more up to date. I would like to go this template. Oh, look at that. This guy's chart makes use of the BJW chart, the template I think we've got. This is cool. Okay, this is promising. This is promising. This means this person has managed to create a value, to create something based off those charts, or based off that template, that we might be able to make use of. Okay. Yes. A collection of Helm charts based on the BJW-S Common Library chart, also available on Artifact Hub. Okay. Since a lot of the charts follow a similar pattern, this library was built to reduce maintenance costs between the charts that use it and try to achieve a goal of being dry. Cool. So I guess my question would be, if we go down charts, and then we go to AdGuard Home, templates. I'm so lost. I'm so lost. Like, what's happening here? We're grabbing... They are using a bunch of the BJW stuff, but I don't understand exactly how they relate to one another. Update Common Helm release, chart lock, chart YAML. So there's a chart and there's a values. We configure the image, some env stuff. We set up service, main service. Okay, so main service at port 3000 has got to be the web page thing. DNS TCP, and then we've got DNS UDP. This makes sense. And then we've got ingress, false. And we can set it in the values file. I guess we can set this up ourselves if we want to. It's just commented out. Default AdGuard Home config file. This will only be copied if an existing config does not exist. Okay. So this is just AdGuard Home's config. Cool. Now, let's take a look at AdGuard Home chart YAML. What does this do? Is this mostly metadata? This looks like metadata. Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking values is basically the equivalent of what ChatGPT has managed to put together, but ChatGPT has done incorrectly, right? And then this is just so that they can publish the chart and we can use Helm to do the thing. The problem is then I don't have control, right? I don't have control over this app version because I'm just using their charts as they are. I would rather not do that. Okay. So what if we started here? What if I just took this? I took their values YAML and I go values.AdGuard and I just go, whoops, did that work? Okay. I just do this. I just copy their thing. And then we got to do a little bit of configuring for this. So there's UI, this guy, Ingress. So I still want to configure Ingress somehow. I also don't want to name this service main. I think that is a silly way to do it. I do like UI. So let's do a quick %s main with UI. Cool. Oh, whoa. That's not good. That's not what we wanted. Main UI. Is that the only other iteration? Okay. Let's just go one at a time. Service UI. Service, and then ingress, we go UI. Cool. And what's next? Enabled true class name traffic. Enabled true class name traffic. Now, we did manage to do this before, right? Like if I do a little VSP, whoops, that's not what I wanted. And I go take a look at our traffic dashboard. Let's take a look at how I configured that. Or maybe we can take a look at our ingress. Okay, so now we're facing an interesting situation where using the template is actually kind of confusing because I've got an example of how to do this the way that it's normally done. However, I don't know how this maps onto the template. So there is the question of do we just ditch the template? Okay. Let's ask ChatGPT what that might look like. If we didn't use the template, could it be done in one? Okay. So yeah, it looks like we can define the deployment, define the services, define ingress, persistent volume claim, and so on, and apply them all with one kube control apply. Why people lean on Helm/app template. Without Helm, you'd repeat boilerplate labels selectors across all those resources. Easy to make mistakes. Upgrades. With Helm, bumping the image tag is one line in values YAML. By hand, you edit the deployment YAML. And maybe multiple spots if you had typos. App template gives you the same structure across all apps so you don't reinvent the wheel every time. So yes, you could do it flat in one YAML file. The difference is how much boilerplate you want to maintain versus how much you offload to Helm's templating. Okay. I mean, I suppose it is a lot. Show me what the full AdGuard.yaml would look like. But maybe this is the best way for me to learn. And then we migrate away from that later. Might be. So deployment. Replicas 1, this means we only have one pod, I think. We give it a bunch of metadata. We say, hey, if it goes down, just create a new one. Define some security context, so the different users. And then we've got container stuff, which tells us, hey, this is the image you should use. Environment, time zone is Toronto, and then ports, and then volume mounts. Okay. And this is basically health, right? Like health checks, liveness and readiness probes. Cool. And then we define some volumes. Okay. This to me seems very much like a Docker Compose file. Like this seems reasonable. And then we define the service UI. So we say, hey, this is a service, the AdGuard UI. We could put that in the networking namespace. I guess we're putting everything. Cluster IP, AdGuard, target port. And we say this. That's our load balancer. And then we define our ingress, define PVC, and define another PVC. Okay. Like that doesn't seem terrible to me. You know what I mean? Like that just doesn't seem that bad. maybe we just go for it. Because these templates, I just can't quite wrap my head around them yet. And yeah, I don't want to rely on somebody else's. I know it's a lot of additional config, but I think we're going to try it. Okay. That's our approach. So let's give this a shot. I'm going to bring this over here with me. I'm going to put my notes somewhere else, and we're going to see. So we are actually just going to write this out by hand. Deployment. Does Lazy Vim come with Kubernetes deployment stuff? Well, that's really nice. Let's try that. What happens? Huh. Cool. What's nice is I'm recognizing a lot of these things from my day job working with ECS on AWS. And so I'm like actually recognizing a lot of very similar features. This is cool. I'm not gonna use this though. So deployment. And I want to go through and I really do want to think about each one of these things. So we're going to do API version with a capital V, apps v1. Cool. And this is of kind deployment. And there's some metadata. The metadata is the name of this deployment is AdGuard. The namespace. Do I want to use a networking namespace? Not really. I'm just going to leave it in default. I am going to explicitly say default though, so that there's nothing to be left to the imagination. I'm going to give it a label. Okay, this makes sense to me. Everything is more fun than Azure ARM. I haven't had the fortune or misfortune of using Azure yet. Okay, replicas 1, strategy. And we're going to say type, recreate. So that's cool. That means if our one instance of this thing goes down, we just recreate it. I think that's what that means. So selector match labels app AdGuard. Okay. So we're saying we know, how do we know, or what are we looking for to recreate? It's the thing that matches the label AdGuard. Okay. Template. Metadata. Wow, there is a lot of boilerplate. I get it. Maybe at some point I will make my own template. Because yeah, this is pain. But I do really want to know. So spec. Okay, security context. FS group. Run as user. Run as group. Okay, so that's stuff inside the container, I'm assuming. Now, we've got our containers, name, AdGuard. So this is the thing I want control over, right? Image, AdGuard, AdGuard Home, v0.107. And what's the most recent AdGuard Home? What do we got? 3 weeks ago, they released 6.5. Okay. .65. Cool. It's some kind of pseudo JSON with comments, like XSLT, like string functions to concat your subscription resource group service IDs. And the moment you deploy it, you'll get a discontinuation notice. Nice. All right, containers. Image pull policy. Okay, so we're saying, hey, if we don't have this image, then go get it. And then we say environment, name, we're saying our time zone, we're saying, and the value of the time zone is America, Toronto. Great. One thing I love about this is America, Toronto. Finally, something that recognizes that America is two continents, North and South America. You know? It's not the United States of America is one country in America, not the whole thing. Okay, so we're defining some ports. DNS TCP. So ports. Okay. Are those users, groups, Linux group users, or are they specific in Kubernetes? This, where'd they go? These guys, I think are, I don't know if that's within the container or how the container, like the permission level, the container, the permission level that Kubernetes is running the entire container at. Let's actually search it up. What does this mean? Is this within the container or at the level of the hosts? Don't worry, to a lot of us, a lot of US Americans, Europe is a country. Yeah, it's pretty sad. That snippet is pod level security context. It affects how the containers inside the pod run, not the host itself. Okay, so it says, hey, when starting processes inside the container, drop root and run them as UID 1000. So it's permissions, it's Linuxy permissions within the container itself. This makes sense. Okay, cool. Where were we? Okay. Name, DNS, UDP. Oh, I forgot protocol. I think I did that the first time too. Container port. Yeah. Protocol. UDP. Nope, this one's TCP. This one's UDP. Okay. And we give it our container port, which is also 53, and we say protocol is UDP. Okay. Now, at the same level of ports is volume mounts. So this is stuff from outside, or like stuff from outside the container that gets ported into it. So we want to pass it some config. Okay, sorry. It tried to help me, and I didn't want help. Volume mounts. Name, config. Okay. Mount path /opt/AdGuard Home conf. So does this, I assume this means on my machine, their config files are put into this, or on my persistent volume claim. Yes, on my persistent volume claim, there is AdGuard config created somewhere, and then we put it into /opt AdGuard Home conf. I think that's what's up. Same thing with work. I think that's right. So the Linux inside the container. Hey, how's it going? It's going pretty well. We're struggling with Kubernetes, but we're getting there. So the Linux inside the container would have to have those user groups, or does this create them? This should create them, yeah. What's cooking? Well, we're working on getting AdGuard Home running in Kubernetes, and we are trying to write our manifest from scratch. It's a lot. I've got some ChatGPT going on here, but I have a rule about not copy pasting because I want to force myself to read it and see what is actually happening in here, which means we're doing a lot of typing, and it's going slowly, but we are making progress. How's it going? How's it going on your end? What are you up to these days? That rule is good. I like to think so. You know, like I'm not 100% anti LLM, um, but I am anti robbing yourself of learning opportunities. Especially when like the point of this stream, aside from like engaging with you guys, is to learn. So, yeah. Okay. What we've got here is liveness and readiness probes. So this basically just says like, hey, where do we go? Probably where do we go on port 3000, which is the web page? Where do like what's the endpoint to check if this thing is actually live and or ready? I think that's what this means. So we tell it the path and the port, and we say initial delay seconds. Whoops, seconds 10 period seconds. So this is how long do we wait to check for the first time, and then how often do we check? HTTP GET. Does it just curl? Is there just like a Kubernetes um, service that runs that curls things? Because that would be kind of funny. And let's just grab these. And apparently we're setting these to 5. Good man. Good job, man. I should follow it. Making an attendance app for freelance. Oh, cool. What kind of attendance? What does is this like for schools and things, or what kind of stuff, if you don't mind me asking? Is this at the same level? Yes, I think so. Name. Whoa. Volumes. Name. Config. Assistant volume claim. Claim name. Okay. So this. Whoa. Okay. And this. Okay. So this persistent volume claim here under volumes is mapped over here to our PVC config later. So I think we're done the deployment config. There's a lot more to this than I had expected. This looks to me like most of what the Docker Compose would be like. So we've got metadata. This is how the spec. This stuff seems to me how many things we're deploying, what's our strategy for when it goes down. I don't know this template section. I honestly don't know what that's for. I guess let's ask about it. What's that section? Cool. Selector, yes. Okay, and then for the spec inside the spec, we have security context, where we're saying, hey, what level of permissions, what user and group do we run as inside the container? Cool. Then we define containers. And we've got some extra environment stuff we can give. We're saying what the image is, we're naming it. We've got ports. We're saying, hey, what do we map in as volume mounts? And then we've got some probes to see, does the container work? So I guess as a deployment, I could probably have a bunch of containers and stuff in one deployment. And that's kind of cool. Duck says, for a shop. Cool. Very cool. Okay, let's find out what this template metadata is. Here's the hierarchy in your deployment. Which pods this deployment manages. Oh, cool. So selector. So this deployment manages anything labeled AdGuard. Checks out. Template, the blueprint for pods. Oh, I think this entire section is supposed to be nested one more. because template, let's take a look at the original. So template, metadata, yes, that's right. This makes more sense now. So this template is the template for any for the containers, things that it can spin up. Okay. All right, let's copy this so that I can make sure I got the indentation right. Actually, this is a good live stream. I really should change how I work. Thanks, man. No problem. Happy to help. I think it's important, to protect your learning. Right? The easier things get, the harder it is to take the time to learn things slowly. But all learning takes time. And sorry, I'm trying to form this thought while also evaluating. Yeah, okay, so volumes is under specs at the same level as containers. Cool. Great. Volumes is under spec at the same level as containers. Is that right? Yes. That would make sense to me. That volumes is what? Like that. Okay. Hey, Rady Dev, how's it going? Oh wait, okay, yeah. So what was I saying? Yes, I think it's important to protect your learning. Learning usually means that you have to slow down a lot more than you want to. And the easier it is to just get a thing done, and LLMs make it really easy to just get a small thing done and ready, right? The more tempting it is to just allow yourself to do the thing quickly. But then you don't get to do the learning part, And I think that's a shame. So this part of this stream is like accountability. Like if I have viewers and I just start copy pasting things, I kind of look like a jerk, And so I've kind of been forced to slow down while streaming and really learn my Linux stuff and that kind of thing. And it's been really great for me. Like the Homelab is still coming along, right? But at the same time, I am slowing down, I am learning, and I'm really happy about that. So I would highly recommend taking some time fairly regularly to just make yourself go slow and learn. Okay. No, stop helping me. I swear I'm about to switch to Vim. Just good old Vim. Okay. Great. Corresponds to Docker volume create. Makes sense to be at the same level as containers. Yeah. Okay. Great. That checks out. I need to join your Discord. Your link expired. Oh, let me grab the link now. Okay. Invite people. There we go. Okay. Kind. So now we're defining a service. And we're going to give it some metadata. And that metadata is going to be, this service is the AdGuard UI. That's the web portal. Namespace. I'm using namespace default. I don't want to manage a bunch of different namespaces yet because I don't really know how to do that. And I don't want to introduce confusion into the mix. You know what I mean? Okay. So there's our metadata. We're going to define now we're going to do the specification. So the type of service is going to be cluster IP. I still need to figure out exactly what that means. So let's ask. What is a cluster IP service? Oh, thanks, Tim. Okay. So a cluster IP service is the default type of Kubernetes service. It gives your pods a stable virtual IP address that's only reachable inside the cluster. Okay. If you want clients outside Kubernetes, your laptop, blah, 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 to reach it, you need to add an ingress, like your traffic, that's what we're going to do, or a node port load balancer. Okay. Okay, this makes sense. This makes sense. So what we're saying, Kubernetes allocates an internal IP. That IP is only routable within the cluster. You can't hit it directly from your laptop on the LAN. Selector, we're saying, hey, the service which pods send traffic to tells the service which pods to send traffic to. Okay, so we're saying, let's take a look at this. Label, we're saying selector. Where did I, oh, I haven't gotten to that yet. That's why. No, what? Oh, PVC, service, UI, type, cluster IP, selector, AdGuard. So we're saying you need to go to this service, and that's what we're, this deployment. How do these differentiate one another? We've got the deployment with definitions about the containers, and then we've got this service. And so the selector that we're about to use, what does that mean exactly? App. App. Where else has app been used? A lot. Labels app AdGuard. Match labels app AdGuard. Template app AdGuard. Okay. All right. So I think what's happening is we're saying we're creating this cluster IP for the app AdGuard. Okay, cool. I know a lot of this is probably really basic to people who do Kubernetes things. So this might be painful as I say out like the most obvious things in the world. But iterating them out loud to myself is really helpful for remembering what's going on. Cool. Ports. Name. So we're grabbing HTTP port 3000 and then target port HTTP. So we're saying, hey, if somebody hits us, we're naming a port, HTTP, port 3000, that's the port. And then, okay, the target port. There's some redirecting happening, but we're redirecting it right back to where it ought to go. So port 3000 versus target port. Port 3000, the port clients inside the cluster connected to on the cluster IP. The port clients inside the cluster connect to on the cluster IP. Okay, target port, the container port to forward to in the selected pods. Okay, in your deployment, you named container port 3000. Okay. So we're saying, hey, if somebody hits the IP that gets reserved, the cluster IP at port 3000, target it, forward that over to the HTTP port on the container. That's what we're saying. Okay. Oh, you know what? Not using the template was a really good idea. Like we are moving slow, but I am learning quite a bit here, and I'm really happy about that. Okay, so that's AdGuard UI all cooked up. Okay, what exactly is that line? Oh. Can we? There we go. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to do service. DNS load balancer. I see why you would want to template this out. And definitely Had I done this many times prior to this, I would have gone with the template. But just going through this process is super useful. Still here. I bricked the camera. Oh boy. I love that this has become like kind of a co-working space for people. Like people just show up, they're hanging out, maybe you're listening closely, maybe you're not, but it's kind of just a place and a time where we can all work on our own projects and report on them. That's pretty cool. Okay. Port forwarding is just like on a router. Also same as in Docker Compose. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Okay, so let's talk about the load balancer. So this load balancer is, oh, that's AdGuard's DNS. Cool. But we are specifically creating a service of type load balancer. So not cluster IP, load balancer. And so what are we doing here? We do the same selector thing. Cool, that makes sense. And then we're saying we're lining up some ports. DNS UDP from earlier, port 53. And then we're saying our target port is DNS UDP over protocol UDP. So this lines up with this. The ports we talked about in the container, right? The ports we talked about in the container. So we're saying, hey, we need a load balancer. And what we needed to do is when the app AdGuard gets hit at port 53, forward it over to the port on the container named DNS UDP or something like that, right? Right? That seems to make sense to me. So let's also get an explanation. Explain this to me. What exactly does a load balancer do in this context? One of the things I like to do here, by the way, is I'll tell ChatGPT what my hypothesis is and ask it to tell me where I'm wrong. This kind of feedback is often useful, right? Like it's useful for learning to try to explain it and then learn how your explanation is wrong. I'm guessing this means the load balancer listens. Balancer. It's for traffic hitting the app AdGuard. It then forwards traffic that hit port 53 to the port defined in the container spec named DNS UDP. Is that point out how I'm wrong or what? Oops. Or what I'm missing? That's not a question. That's a statement. Okay. Clusters do their own NAT. Okay, yeah. This checks out. Then all traffic appears to come from their shared virtual IP. Yeah. Okay. So, tells Kubernetes, create a service that exposes my app on an external IP. Okay. On cloud providers, this would spin up a real cloud load balancer. Like application load balancer in AWS. Cool. On K3S, the lightweight built-in load balancer, Clipper, just binds the ports directly on a node IP, so the service is reachable from your LAN. So the load balancer is not a pod in your cluster, it's an abstraction K3S makes. Sure, port 53 on a node forwards to your pods. So port 53 makes sure port 53 on your node, port 53 on the worker node is now forwarding directly to the container's port 53. Okay. So I'm a little bit confused about how this differs from Ingress. How does this differ from Ingress stuff? I'm not exactly sure. Okay, I'll be right back and we'll keep chugging. I'll be right back. Okay. Um, it's pretty much like HA proxy with a SOCKS backend, while Ingress routes are more like an Nginx reverse proxy setup, not quite at the network level, but service-based. In the end, similar outcome. Okay, that means some things. It's meaning more and more to me each day, but this is something I've been curious about for a while, and I haven't figured out exactly like that difference isn't conceptually clear to me yet. So let's take a let's look at our description here. Services in Ingress both front your pods, but they solve different problems. No, that's not what I meant to ask. Ingress service. Stable. So the load balancer service. No, we're talking about the cluster IP. Stable virtual IP for pods plus basic L4 load balancing. Cluster internal scope. Cluster internal by default, but can be exposed as node port or load balancer. Okay. Works on raw ports. Has no idea about HTTP hostnames, URLs, or TLS. It just balances packets to matching pods. Okay. That's not HTTP, so Ingress can't help you. Only a service can. Okay, so we're talking about layers. Okay. Understands host names. So this is about packets and IP, moving packets to the correct IPs and the correct ports, right? Ports and protocols. This stuff, Ingress, is working at the level of HTTP. So it's like different host names and paths. Okay, so it's a layer thing? All right, that's as much as I want to explore that right now. Rule of thumb. Ingress, layer 7, HTTP aware, good for web UIs, APIs, and dashboards. Service. Okay. Layer 4, protocol / port based, required for everything, including as the backend of an Ingress. So, so the cluster IP we set up, is that required for us to use Trafic for Ingress? So I assume I need this so that there is a stable IP and port 3000 for HTTP that traffic can move stuff to. Is that right? That sounds right. Sounds right to me. Oh, Discord's going off. Oh, new guy's here. Awesome. Okay. Traffic runs as a pod in our cluster. It watches ingress routes, resources. When a request comes in on port 80 or 443, HTTP or HTTPS, traffic looks at the rules and says, okay, for host, I should forward this to AdGuard UI service, port 3000. Why it goes through a service. Traffic doesn't talk to pods directly. It only knows about services. That's by design. Services give you a stable name, AdGuard Home UI Networking Service Cluster Local, and build in load balancing across pods. Without the cluster IP service, traffic would have no stable way to find the pods behind AdGuard. What happens? Okay. Okay. So, and this is the HA proxy thing, right? So so the cluster IP works if I have, say, and that's why virtual IP. Friends, it is clicking. It is clicking. 3 worker nodes. Then if I have 3 worker nodes, the containers could be on all 3 nodes at once. So no stable IP. When I set a cluster IP, I'm saying create a virtual IP for the service AdGuard. For the service AdGuard with and expose port 3000 on that. It kind of like that. How does the cluster IP know? So now my question is, how does the cluster IP know which of the 3 different instances on the various worker nodes it should forward stuff to? Which of the 3 different instances, worker nodes with containers running, it should forward traffic to? Is that just like HA proxy stuff? Something like that? I think I'm coming to an understanding here. So, pods come and go, and their IPs are not stable. Well, he's learning networking at the same time here. I really am. This is something, so like networking is something that's been a bit of a black box to me for a long time. I took a networking course at U of T a little while ago, and that helped a lot. But there's still a lot that needs work. And so as I'm doing this, right, this is an opportunity for me to put some of those phrases that were put into my head, like layer 1 and 2 and baud rates and TCP, UDP, NAT and things, and put them into like concrete contexts where I'm actually solving problems. So that's why I take my time. PXN in America says, click in. I got a big meeting, half an hour. Come over to my house and show me how to work. All right. What do we got? Pods come and go, and their IPs are not stable. A cluster IP service creates a virtual stable IP and DNS name that represents that group of pods. Yes, okay. Other workloads, or an ingress like traffic, always connect to that stable cluster IP, never directly to the pod IPs. Is a pod what, like, okay, explain pod. I actually don't know what a pod is exactly. I know that it's kind of adjacent to a deployment. Is that like a deployment? Or what's the mapping here? All right, let's see. How does a service know which pod to send traffic to? It's a label selector. The service continually watches the API server for pods with app. Okay. The list of matching pods is its endpoints. When you scale your deployment to 3 replicas, the service automatically tracks all 3. So the service doesn't hard-code IPs. It dynamically points at whichever pods are alive and labeled correctly. Okay, so a deployment could have 3 replicas, and then I would have 3 pods. Okay, explain pod. So if I have three replicas, will I always have 3 pods? No, that's not right. It's set to 3 replicas. That's our desired state. And then, will I always have 3 pods? Always try to spin up 3 pods. Is that right? There are 3 pods across 3 worker nodes. Kube proxy spreads traffic across all of them. Kube proxy spreads the traffic. That's the thing that's doing that. The exact algorithm. Guys, when I go to do my Kubernetes certification one day, I'm making good progress on that in advance. Okay, I'm not worried about that. Okay, cool. We're almost back. We're almost back to setting this manifest up. That's the whole deal. Let's unpack pod. A pod is the smallest deployable unit in Kubernetes. It can hold one or more containers, one or more that are tightly coupled. So a pod is like, if I have a Docker Compose, for example, if I have a Docker Compose, I can list multiple containers. So we can package that all up, those tightly coupled containers, into a pod. And then I can copy that pod onto multiple different nodes. These are replicas. Okay, cool. Now, a cluster IP says, hey, let me make a virtual IP that will represent your app. Yeah. There we go, team. There we go. Whew. Okay. I think we did a lot of good learning right there. That's what we did. Does anybody else feel like they learned something? Or are you guys just like all way smarter than me? And I'm sitting here asking ChatGPT to teach me things that like Chat is like, yeah, obviously, dude. Okay, cool. That looks good. Right? That looks good. Now let's do Ingress. Now that I kind of know what that means. I warn everybody at the beginning of like every stream, I'm not an expert. Okay. I want to do a quick check and make sure that's still correct. It's not. It's not. Look at that, right? Do we want an ingress root here? I think we do. So what is it doing? Kubernetes.io ingress.class traffic. I think we can just do an ingress root. Like this. Let's try it. Let's try it this way. I mean, it worked last time, right? Let's actually ask, what's the difference between an ingress and an ingress root? And can I do the following instead of the ingress kind used in your example? So I want to see, whoops, I tried to :W my ChatGPT chat. Can you tell I use Vim? In the meantime, let's keep typing. Name, AdGuard. Namespace, default. So we're going with AdGuard, not AdGuard Home these days, right? Spec. Entry points, web, port 80. Okay. Ingress, Kubernetes built in, works with any ingress controller, good for normal HTTP host path routing, TLS, basic annotations, portable across controllers. Ah, okay. So we can do an ingress, which is just handled whatever ingress controller, whatever ingress controller I use, an ingress will handle that. I think I broke ChatGPT, guys. But if we follow this, if we use this ingress root and we're specifying traffic, we're only doing traffic. Okay. Traffic specific features, weighted backends, contain traffic middlewares. That might be useful. Granular entry points, blah, blah, blah. Not portable, only traffic. For your AdGuard UI, both work. For DNS, neither applies. Yeah, because the DNS stuff is at a lower layer. Okay. So, if you're AdGuard, blah, blah, blah. So I would call it AdGuard UI because we specifically want to target this guy. Cool. Cool. Entry points web, roots. And it's going to match on host, backticks. Dude, one time in first year, I was so mad. I was stuck for forever because I think I was working with Haskell. A friend of mine was a big Haskell fan at the time. And I was learning Haskell, and somewhere it required backticks. I had never encountered a backtick before. I thought it was just a single quote. And I was so mad. I was sitting there. Sorry, 1 second. So we're saying, hey, this root, if it says adguard.laundrymat, we're going to basically forward that over to the service AdGuard UI onto port 3000. And it is a service. Okay, that's what that says. And so I'm like sitting there, copy pasting things. It's like whenever I copy pasted the code, the example code, it would work. Oh, I closed the wrong one. Whenever I copy pasted the example code, it would work. And whenever I would try to type it out myself, it would not work. And it was just absolutely infuriating. I was so mad when Borland changed from single quote to backtick when switching from Pascal 6 to 7. Yeah, that sounds like a massive pain. My dad has things to say about Borland. Okay, cool. PVC config. And I'm just going to do that. Worker. Is it work? No, it's not worker, it's work. Okay. So here we're doing native Kubernetes stuff, and we're saying, hey, this is V1, which is what we've used elsewhere, not specifically for apps, but we did for our cluster IP service. We did for our load balancer service. We have a different API version for traffic. This is cool that you can just plug in API versions. That's really cool. Like the flexibility of that is phenomenal. You get the same deal with CNP from the web and squiggle double quotes, never trust user input. Yeah. Okay, and so now we're saying persistent volume claim. We're saying metadata, AdGuard config, which we've named elsewhere, right? Remember at the top, we got this guy. When we were naming volumes for our containers, or sorry, when we were naming volumes, oh sure, now that works. Wasn't working earlier when I was trying to figure out if things were lined up, was it? When we were naming volumes for our pods, our pod specification, that's what this is, right? This is kind of specification for specification for the deployment, and then this is template for pods. Look at the mental model, guys. Look at the mental model. It's coming together. What are we doing? Okay, AdGuard config. Namespace, default. Labels, app AdGuard. Spec is at the same level as metadata. Access modes. Okay? Read, write once. Resources is at the level of access modes. There we go. Requests. Storage. 2 gigabytes. Why the GI? That's weird. So what are we saying? We're saying there should be a persistent volume claim. We're defining it now. It's going to be the AdGuard config. We're putting in the default namespace. And it's got labels, hey, the app, AdGuard. Nice. Then we're saying access modes read write once. I guess you're dumping the config or reading the config, whatever. And we only need 2 gig. Okay. PVC work is the same, so I am going to copy paste that. Oops. Watch that bite me in the butt somehow. Okay, that's done. It's definitely not going to work, but that's fine. So I think now we can do a kube control apply -f AdGuard. Is that right? Namespace is networking, not found. So somewhere I left in networking. Yep, because I copy pasted that. Okay, that worked. It's almost baffling, really. No available server. Okay, it didn't quite work, did it? Okay, here's crash loop back off. All right. So it's broken. It's not working. Status error. Okay. So there's probably a kube control get logs. No. Okay. Okay. I'm in error status after doing kube control apply. How can I get logs? It's got print the logs for a container in a pod. Okay, kube control logs. I need to give it this. Oops. Kube control logs this guy. This is the first time AdGuard Home is launched, checking if AdGuard Home has necessary permissions. You must run it as administrator. Cool. What the hell? Now we specifically in our AdGuard YAML, and this is why we type it up, because now this is in my brain and I remember that this happened. We specifically said, you're not going to run as root, right? That's what this means. It's coming up with some nonsense. Let's just... Oh, interesting. The pod changes. Okay. Status running. 0 out of 1 already. What do we got? Okay, so when I take out the stuff that says run it as geez, sorry. Tired. Don't run as root, we get good things, right? Not quite. Not quite. Several things are wrong. 0 out of 1. But it says it's running. Isn't that weird? Isn't that odd? So this is our cluster IP, I assume. Okay, AdGuard Home did bind to port 53. Okay. Found unexpected permissions. Ah, this is weird. The web APIs should be running though, but that's not working. I think I know why. I think I know why. So if I go into sudo vim /etc hosts, I have this. I have that configured like that. But is that still the cluster IP? So if I do kube control get service, AdGuard UI is not there anymore. Is it? Is it? However, I had traffic before. That still works. Isn't that interesting? It strikes me that these should likely be the same. But let's just see. No, it's not quite right. Okay. Definitely something is wrong. Something is wrong, but I'm not sure exactly what. AdGuard DNS, AdGuard UI doesn't have an external IP, but that's expected because traffic should do the routing. Okay. Still pending. Okay, I'm at a total loss at this point. What the hell is going on? So what do we have? What do we have? We know that there was a permissions issue. So that could be causing problems. We do know that it says AdGuard Home web UI is running, but we can't gain access to it yet. So that's also interesting. We also have this. It claims it's running, but 0 out of 1 already. So I really don't know what's happening. Do you need the port in the hosts file? I don't think so, because traffic should do the ingress stuff and handle the ports for me, right? So for example, if I do traffic, right, that works. That works. And somewhere I've defined that. All right, so if I do cd base, bim traffic, here, right, traffic just handles that for me. So hosts only overrides the DNS resolver, no ports there. Yeah. So I miss when we just had Helm to do this for me. I also noticed that Kubernetes just running amok, setting up, picking things in my crash loop back off. Okay, so we are getting weird things happening. Also, ChatGPT has just lost its mind. Can we have a look at the ingress again? The error might be there. Okay. Pod is dead. Yeah, I don't know. So it was having trouble. Let's see. Restarting. Okay, restarts climbing. Okay, that's not a solution, right? Killing the readiness probe is definitely not the way to handle this. Let's see. Can we take a look? I doubt we're going to get to ArgoCD today. Home case. So what I want to do is see if we can look at this. Can I look at the Helm chart we were using and see if I can find some of the configuration it's doing? Maybe. I know we're not actually creating, we actually don't have a config. So maybe we need to pass that in properly. Yeah, look at this. Init containers. So I think it's failing because we don't have a config file. Maybe. I'm going to look at an AdGuard Home Docker compose and see what we get. Yep. So I'm guessing it just creates its own config file on startup. So maybe that's not it. Check if service LB is present. Cube control, get pods -n cube system. Okay. These look correct. It's probes killing it during first run. All right, let's try that. Let's try that. Okay, that's too long. Let's try 2 minutes and see what happens. I know what the thing is. Try apply -f. AdGuard. Just checked. My AdGuard config volume was also empty when I first started. TCP 3000 is the default port anyway, and config gets written at first run. Okay. So yeah, that checks out. Let's do logs. But cube control, get pods. So we've got this guy. WStream, thank you. Let's do the logs. I still need to see about this. Found unexpected permissions. Like, that could be causing some serious problems. Permissions check. Right? Init containers. Yeah, this is just going to crash again, I think. But I think we need to solve this first. Unexpected permissions, directory path, this guy. Permission 0777, want that. And so what it's doing, all right, let's grab this and see what that does. I mean, it's claiming that this is only a warning, but I'm pretty sure having correct access to your two major working directories is important. No? You're allowing more than expected. The other way around would be a problem. Oh, you're allowing more than expected. I see. Okay. Well, in that case, this is not a huge deal. Now, yeah, we're still doing this thing. So I don't think this is going to get anywhere. Kubectl gets services. Like, we're pending on the external IP. Like, yeah, no available server. What could this be? All right, and it'll create the config. AdGuard UI. Are we seeing AdGuard UI? We are. And it's got a cluster IP. Great. So this is as expected. This is as expected. Can I check ingress roots? Can I do kube control get ingress? Okay. Get pods. Replication controller, deployments, single pod and JSON output. Kind of stumped here. Grab the previous container logs too. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize you could do that. So what is that? Cube control. First, let's grab our pods. Can I do like cube control? No, now is not the time for that. I was like, I could awk that, grab that, and then go, but no. So we're gonna do logs, grab this guy, grab for this, and we're gonna do a -- previous. And this look at that. Look at that. Starting plane, signal huddler. Received signal, signal terminated, stopping AdGuard Home. So at some point, it just gets the signal and then stops. Disable probes temporarily. Make sure it can bind to 53. It seems to be doing that. Bring up the installer. Once the pod is ready, port forward. We can do a port forward. Yeah, because we tried that. That's like it's dying before we get a chance to try. 2 extra checks. It's little flaps. Permissions on PVCs. That's not a huge deal. right? Plus, container is getting a SIG term, which also almost always means Kubernetes is killing it. Okay. Okay. Why has ChatGPT forsaken me? It's just died. Web API. Stopping HTTP server. Well, let's do some good old-fashioned Googling. AdGuard Home. What's going on? No. No. AdGuard Home is really slow. True. Fair. No, it is binding to 53. So the problem is that it just dies for some reason. Kubernetes is killing AdGuard. The usual culprit here is a probe failing, liveness or startup. All right, well, let's try just killing the probes. Okay. Holy crap, it's just the probes? Are we serious? Are you kidding me? It was just the probes. How does that even work? Why does it work that way? What does it mean? So, what does this mean then? The liveness and readiness probes. If they're not getting some kind of signal that says, hey, this is alive or this is ready, I'm guessing the liveness one. The readiness probe probably isn't killing anything. So what happens? If the liveness probe check fails, Kubernetes kills the container and tries again? Is that right? I suppose it would be right. If you think of liveness as health, as a health check, if you see that a container isn't responding to the health check, a reasonable approach would be to kill that container and spawn a new one, right? Now, maybe whatever endpoint I set just wasn't responding, and so it was just crash looping it. Could be. It's gentle, it's not a SIG kill. Probes kill containers, and if the container is alone in the pod, it goes with it. All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to put this back on my desktop. Here's the good news. Here's the good news. We have successfully, finally, launched AdGuard Home. And guess what? Oh my god. No, one more time real quick. Do you know why we went through this rabbit hole? It's because last week, I launched AdGuard through the Helm chart, right? And I'm like, oh, great, it's working. Look at that. Oh, I hate light mode. It's so annoying for my eyes. And Plus said, I have dark mode. It's in the bottom corner. And I went looking for the bottom corner and the dark mode button, and it wasn't there. And I went, am I running an old version of AdGuard Home? Yes. Yes, I am. We went through this because I wanted dark mode. And because I don't want to run super old containers, because there's concerns about security. But it's really funny if you say that you did it for dark mode. Woohoo! We got dark mode, baby! All right, let's do this. AdGuard Home is a network-wide ad and tracker blocking DNS server. Its purpose is to let you control your entire network and all your devices, and it does not require using a client-side program. Yeah, listen. Listen everywhere. Have at it. Now, this is going to be incorrect, right? Because that's the internal IP for our cluster, right? That actually makes me wonder. That makes me wonder. You will need to configure your devices or router to use the DNS server on the following addresses. This is wrong, isn't it? Isn't it? What we would actually need is this external IP. Is that right? Yes. Look, AdGuard DNS external IP. I'm learning networking. I'm learning networking, guys. Like right here. All right. Sure. Yes. Okay. Open dashboard. Bad gateway. Uh-oh. Why is that happening? Please. Okay. Man, I really thought we got there. It's still running. Okay, it's still running, but now this doesn't work. Why might that be the case? Why might that be the case? Well, let's first try grabbing this. That shouldn't work. I'm going to assume this doesn't work. Yeah, because we're using an ingress route. We have not set up load balancing for port 3000, right? So that's not going to work. So let's go ahead. Wait, can I do kube control logs? I feel like the only way to grab this would be through awk, right? I couldn't, yeah, no. That was a nice try. Love the stream so far. Going to go make some tea. Have fun. What kind of tea? Logs, this guy. And we're going to do a dash dash previous just in case. AdGuard. In pod, not found. Huh? Oh, there is no previously terminated thing. Okay, cool. Cool. Ingress root does not need an LB. Yes, a cluster IP should be enough. Right, okay. So, here we go. Here's what we've got. DNS proxy created a bunch of stuff. All on 53. It's accessible from everything. Okay. Tells me, hey, there's where your web is. Starting plain server. Cool. Saving contents. To work. Okay. Removing old filter. Path. No such file or directory. So we got an error. Removing old filter. That's fine. Why would that mean that all of a sudden this doesn't work? Okay, well, here's another really stupid question. What is bad gateway? What is bad? What exactly does that mean? It's a server-side issue that occurs when a gateway or proxy server receives an invalid response from an upstream server, indicating a problem with the website server communication. So, okay, that means that basically traffic is telling us, hey, whatever I was served when you tried to go here is garbage. Like it's not working properly, right? When a reverse proxy does not find its backend server. Now, we do get service. We got through the config And then it just died. Okay, AdGuard Home dies after config. What the hell? Oh my god, leave me alone with your freaking AI everything. AdGuard Home stops working after every router reboot. AdGuard Home not running after reboot. No, fails to start after reboot. Why is AdGuard Home DNS not working after setup? God, wish I knew. I don't even know where to look for hints. You know? Like, it's running. Probably. We don't have probes anymore, so I don't know how accurate that is. I can do a dig, right? Just AdGuard.laundry.mat. What does this tell me? One query, two answer, authority additional. CNAME. So this means like the little web app died, I think is what's happening. Whoa. When a reverse oh yeah. This means that the little web app died, right? Hey, WithDucks, how's it going? So this tells me, I guess I need to tell it what happened. Okay. Removing probes got me through config, but now the app dies after configuration with error 502. This tells me the domain is good. It must be the app, right? Dig needs an @ as long as AdGuard Home is not your default resolver. Okay, clearly I don't know how to read this properly. I thought this... Wait, no. Right. So, like, if I do this, will my response be... Oh, interesting. This changed everything. Oh, wait. We still have this guy. One server found. Okay, interesting. To check if AdGuard is doing DNS resolution, digexample.com @AdGuard. I see. Right. So that's not what I was trying to check. But that is a useful thing to go looking at. So let's try that. Digexample.com @adguard.laundry.mat. Now, what does this tell us? Query 1, answer 6. This means LB is working and AdGuard Home runs, but the web GUI Ingress traffic doesn't. Ha! Isn't that interesting? Something like that, you know? So that's not good. Next. Hmm. Okay, this is interesting. 1 second, gang. Oh, during the wizard, the UI port changed often to 80, but your Ingress service still targets 3000. Traffic can't connect to 3000 anymore. Nail the actual listen port with step 3. Patch the... Okay. So apparently, during config, sometimes it changes the port for the UI. That's weird. Okay. So I'm just working through this. So let's take a look. Can we do that? This is kind of cool. Peek the config file to confirm the web port. All right, let's try this. Oops. So let's take a look at this. Basically, what we're saying is, hey, let's do Control A. I don't need to do a namespace. We're saying an exec interactive, the AdGuard deployment, and we're doing a shell, and we're checking ports. Okay. We do not have SS inside there. Plus gave me something. Cube control exec-it, and then namespace pod name. So basically what happened with Dux is we finally got AdGuard running properly. And then once we got there, I got through the configuration, and now I can't access the web portal. However, the DNS resolver still works. So it is actively working. And so my hunch at this point is that it's no longer serving on port 3000, and it is instead serving on port 80. I didn't pay enough attention during the configuration, and I probably should have. Okay. I do a -- here, bin shell, then cd. Okay, let's do that. cd/opt/AdGuard Home conf. Do I have Vim in here? I guess we're doing VI. That's got to be it, right? Nice password. This is our problem. Cat. Yes, I could have catted it. You're right. Port. Yeah. Okay. So the problem is here, right? It's this port 6060. Yeah. So, is there an environment variable that I need to set? Is there, how do I ensure that this port works properly? This curls, the app is up. Okay. So in the config file inside the container, I have http prov. Oh wait, address 80. So we have this and we have this. Okay, interesting. Port 6060, but also address 0. So I'm not sure what this guy is, but this tells me it switched to port 80. Okay. This is interesting. So why would it do that? Why would it switch to port 80? I suppose that's not a huge deal, right? Well, no. Funny thing is, my config file also has port 6060 in there and address 80. Huh. During the wizard, the UI port changed, but your Ingress service still target 3000. Traffic can't connect to 3000 anymore. 502. Nail the actual listen port. Okay. So if I do a kube control port forward, just as a test, deploy / AdGuard, wouldn't it be 80? 80 to 3000? I forget which way this goes. Is this inside to outside? Port forward. Let's do control. Check the cube control port forward and see. Listen on ports 5000 and 6000 locally. 6000 locally. Okay, so this is fine. Listen on ports 5000 and 6000 locally. Listen on port 888, 8888, forwarding to 5000 in the pod. Ah, okay, so it's 3000 here and it's here. So now if I go local host 3000, we get AdGuard Home. So it has switched to 80. Why? Why would it do that to me? Is the question. Okay. So I guess the question now is, how do we make this resilient? We clearly need, we obviously, I don't want to change AdGuard's config inside. Yeah, I guess during config it just said, hey, oh, you know what? This is what would have happened, I guess. During the web UI configuration process at the beginning, there is no default config. And then after, it dumps the config file. And within the config file, it sets it to 80. I was probably given the opportunity to set this to 3000, and I didn't. So, light bulb moment. Yeah, I think that's what happened. So, change AdGuard's web port back to 3000 and restart. Then keep your service ingress as they were. So we can do the port forward, and then we can go localhost 3000. We can log in. Right? Nice. We've got our two DNS queries. Now we can go to settings, general settings, and then maybe port. That's report. That's not what we want. DNS settings, client settings. AdGuard Home set web UI port. There we go. There we go. How to change dashboard interfaces address. And then you have to go into adguardhome.yaml in your editor. That's not great. Here's a question. Like, did I have the opportunity? And okay, so I'm going to do this. Delete cube control get pods, cube control delete this guy, because I want to start over. Huh? I think it needs to be pods. Yeah. So now what should happen is it'll launch a new one. It's named a different thing. And if I go this, we still get bad gateway. It's picking up the old config file, isn't it? So if I do this local host, I think. Oh, because the config file already exists, is that right? Because the config file already exists, I probably won't be given the config again. Oh boy, this is complicated. Okay. Control, let's do a port. Yeah, this. Now I can localhost it. Yes, it's already configured. So even if I shut it down, it's still picking up because it's a persistent volume claim. So the question is, I don't care, man. I've been doing this for 2.5 hours. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a cube control exec this. But that's not gonna work because we need the new pod, get pods. We're gonna get the new pod. We're gonna get the new pod. We're gonna cube control exec dash it this guy dash dash slash bin slash sh. I had similar problems with my testing of AdGuard. Yeah, man, this is not awesome. The switching of ports is not great. I could have done this with sed. Hold on. Cube control. I know that's not. Oh, I don't need to do this interactively. Ah, whatever. I did an AdGuard-S uninstall and then install in order to go through the wizard again. Interesting. Okay, you know what? Whatever. We're just gonna do this. It shouldn't be work. We want to be in config, conf, vim, YAML, vi, YAML. Let's actually set it. So we can do sed-i AdGuard. No, that happens after, doesn't it? Yes, the file is after. So I want to go 0. Now we need to be careful of the dots because the dots are wildcards. So we're going to do it like this. I need the last guy like this. Huh? What? So what exactly just happened there? Oh, I forgot the S. I was so I'm getting better. No such file or directory. You're a liar. Ah, I need the G. Okay. Okay. Cool. So now if we cat AdGuard and scroll up and scroll boom. Okay. Now let's exit this and we're going to kill the container. Sorry, we're going to kill the pod again. Can I just restart the pod instead of killing it? Cube control get pods. Cube control restart pods. This. Whoops. Cube control restart. Can I do that? Nope. Cube control restart pods. This? No. There's no restart. Is there? There's rollout, manage the rollout, auto scale, describe logs, exec, port forward, replace. Okay. All right, we'll just kill it then. Is it destroy? Delete? It's delete. Okay, guys. Just restart it. Just restart AdGuard. I suppose from within the container, I could have done a system control restart. Oh, it's... What are the odds? It's Alpine based, right? Is Alpine System D? System D feels heavy for that. Okay, gang. There we go. We got AdGuard Home. It's up to date. We did it. AdGuard Home is up to date. On the most recent version, it now resolves correctly and on the right port. We did it, right? Right? And here's the best part. I took no freaking notes. I took none of my notes. Usually I'm pretty locked in about this. But I forgot. So we created a new YAML, a new AdGuard manifest from scratch. That's one thing we did on GitHub. So, and then we did a cube control apply -f AdGuard.yaml. What else? What did we do? Debugged. Probes were we're on my face. Probes were killing pods before they had a chance to start. So don't add probes unless you know that there is a health endpoint on your application. Good man. Thank you. Thank you. I'm okay. I was so tired that I forgot to be excited about this. We freaking did it. we did it. This is a massive success. Like, the amount of stuff that we have learned today is huge. I mean, look, like, how much more we now know about Kubernetes manifests, right? I now have a mental model of these various components. And so I'm actually really proud and happy that we didn't go through the template route. There was somebody early on in the stream who said, couldn't we do this without templates? And I was like, yeah, but I think I'm going to use the templates because blah, blah, blah. No, that guy was right. That guy was on to something, okay? I like this route. This gives us, whoa, that was close. Let's just close this before I do something. So this was good. We learned probes are unnecessary. Drink water. Yes, I will grab some water in a sec. What else did we do? We built the manifest from scratch. Well, ChatGPT did, and then we learned about it as we went. We have not installed and configured ArgoCD. I get the feeling that's going to be way easier than this. I do, because we can use Helm for that. What else did we learn? So we did this. Everything worked. Jumped inside the AdGuard container to change its configuration so that port was 3000 instead of it setting to 80. Okay. And that was a kube control exec-it --bin/sh and its exec pod name. Okay, sweet. Okay, I'll be back. I'm gonna grab some water. You're right. I'm gonna grab some water, and we're gonna take a crack at ArgoCD. I don't care. I don't care that we're still going. What do we got? Okay, I just need to check in with some folks. Okay, doing a water check, doing some other stuff, and then onto ArgoCD. In the meantime, I'm going to play you a preview of my next video.
These little Intel N100 mini PCs.
Well, maybe my next video.
They're super affordable, they sip power, and there's a surprising amount of graphics power in these things. People have been using them in their Homelabs to serve HD content through Plex and Jellyfin servers. With the Steam Deck making Linux handheld gaming a thing, there's been a lot of progress in these low-powered, console-like Linux gaming devices. And so I'm curious if we can make one at home with this little guy and CashOS's handheld Linux distro Spin. Let's see how it does. First things first, we need to be honest about how powerful this thing is. We're not going to be running Red Dead Redemption 2 or Cyberpunk or whatever's cool these days. This thing's about $100 USD, 150 to 200 Canadian. It's going to be running indie titles and like GameCube emulation at best. That's what we're targeting. So we'll be benchmarking games like that. We'll see if I can even launch something like Cyberpunk, but I don't have my hopes high for that. The other important goal that we'll be targeting for this is, can we navigate it exclusively through a controller? I want this thing to feel like a PS4. I want to be able to sit down and not worry about Linux gaming. I just want to be able to play my games simply and easily. I'm down for a little configuration, but at the end of the day, I want this to sit there and go.
Oh yeah, the cuts. It's hard. It's hard. Can we get the B-roll too? No B-roll yet. No B-roll. I'm not much of a photographer. Bro came when it ended. That's wild. Nice time. Okay, what do we got? Okay, it's Argo time. It's ArgoCD time. ArgoCD. Let's check one last thing. After that, I did a sed-I, and then I did this. I did this, and then I said 80. Slash opt something. Where is AdGuard Home's thing? I forget exactly. Where is that file? It's in opt. You missed the slash after 3000. Opt somewhere over the rainbow. I don't remember where it goes. Something like that. And then cube control delete pod name. Whoa. To restart the pod. Cool. Okay. Let's do ArgoCD. I am really happy about that though. That is a massive win for the gang, for the team. All right, it's Argo time. So we're creating a namespace and we're grabbing into the ArgoCD namespace. We're doing just a cube control apply on their ArgoCD manifest. Cool. That makes sense. Getting started. Further user-oriented documentation provided for additional features. Okay. We have core DNS. We have a kube config file. We have kube control. Nice. This will create a new namespace, ArgoCD, where ArgoCD services and application resources live. Awesome. Okay. If you are not interested in UI, SSO, and multi-cluster features, then you can install only the core ArgoCD components. Probably would have been fine. This default installation will have a self-signed certificate and cannot be accessed without a bit of extra work. Do one of the following. Follow the instructions to configure a certificate. Configure the client OS to trust the self-signed certificate. Use the -- in the secure flag on all ArgoCD CLI operations in this guide. How much work is this? Yeah, there's no way I'm doing that right now. There's no way. This is going to be our approach. I'll be back. Alrighty then. Configure the client OS to trust the self-signed certificate. How to trust self-signed certificate. How do we do that? Okay. To configure. I do not know how to do that. And we're dealing with a CLI, so this is not at the browser level. This needs to probably be interacting with like hosts or something like that. So for ArgoCD. ArgoCD provides 3 inbound TLS endpoints that can be configured. The user-facing endpoint of the ArgoCD server workload, which serves the UI and the API. The endpoint, okay. By default and without further configuration, these endpoints will be set up to use an automatically generated self-signed certificate. However, most users will want to explicitly configure the certificates for these TLS endpoints, possibly using automated means such as Cert Manager or using their own dedicated certificate authority. I just want... I might not have it in me to do this today. Oh, come on. I might not have the juice. Oh, I mean, we can go through with the -- insecure flag for everything for now, which feels a little weird, but we could do it. Change the ArgoCD server service type to load. Wait, what the heck? Access the ArgoCD API server. By default, the ArgoCD API server is not exposed with an external IP. It's not exposed with an external IP. So wrap up now. Yeah, I think I might. If you get the cert file, copy it to user local share CA certificates. Oh, that's good to know. If you get the cert file. I think they were pointing us to that. Okay. The endpoint. By default, right. Which is this. I think this stuff. Yeah, I don't got this in me. I don't got this in me today. Let's just take a look at some of the stuff first and see. ArgoCD follows the GitOps pattern of using Git repositories as the source of truth. Kubernetes manifests can be specified in several ways. Helm charts, plain directory of YAML JSON manifests. That's what we're doing. Okay. So I guess, and skips, use ArgoCD login -- core to configure CLI. To configure CLI access and skip steps 3 to 5. Access Argo CD API server. I can't use words. Login using the CLI. We're doing port forwarding. Register a cluster to deploy apps to. This run update CA afterwards to reindex. Ah, good to know. Register. So for example, if I go like CD op, or if I go, I wonder if that's the kind of thing that might not be great to share. Whatever. Let's pop this over here. I'm just going to take a look at that. User sudo vim /user /local share ca. Is this sensitive information? Is this the kind of thing that I wouldn't want other people to see? User local share ca certificates. Interesting. So it's empty right now. Where were we? Oh, back over here. This step registers a cluster's credentials to ArgoCD and is only necessary when deploying to an external cluster. When deploying it internally to the same cluster that ArgoCD is running in, this guy should be used as the application's Kate's API server address. All right, I see. Okay. So there's some weird things happening here based on my limited knowledge of Kubernetes today. Mine, Debbie and Forky, are in Etsy SSL certs. That feels better to me. Etsy SSL certs makes sense as a place to put those. I don't know why it would be user local share. That feels just bizarre to me. Okay. So why does this feel weird to me? I guess because I would want to set up like Ingress and things for the web UI, and I didn't get a chance to because I just copy pasted, right? So I do kind of want to look through and see what's going on here. API extensions. Oh, this is complex. Usually update CA certificates tells you where it looks for them. Ah, okay. Yeah, my eyes are just glazing over. I certainly won't be writing this from scratch. Oh. What do you think, chat? You think we type this out? Okay. So, you grab this manifest, you apply it, it creates a bunch of new stuff. So if I do like a kube control get pods -n ArgoCD, we have an application controller, we have application set, a deck server, notifications, Redis, repo server, and server. So we've created a bunch of stuff. Type it out, do it. It sounds like one of those challenges that would get me on like the local news. Download the ArgoCD CLI. Yeah, screw it. We're just gonna do the insecure stuff for now. So, all right, gang. Well, let's have some fun. I bet. But before I do, yes, nice. I generally prefer to use Arch's native packages over AUR stuff if I can. So luckily we can. We can do just a good old fashioned. Wait, no. Boom. Even shorter. I'm getting efficient with my bash. Let's go. I love your enthusiasm, man. Much appreciated. Okay, so if we do, all right, let's do this. So I bet we can do an ArgoCD login -- core -- insecure. Okay. I don't know what this. So far, ArgoCD is magic. And I don't like things that feel magical in my Homelab. You know what I mean? Okay. But either way, that seems to have worked. Register a cluster to deploy apps to. This is optional because it's this cluster. Tight. Create an application from a Git repository. Well, what I really want to do right now is look at the web UI. Like, I just want to go to the admin panel. But I think I did core, and that might not allow me. Okay, so let's take a look. The installation, blah. If you are not interested in UI, I am. Then you can install only the core ArgoCD components. Okay, I did install more than that, though. So let's do a kube control get service with namespace ArgoCD. Okay, great. No external IP, but this is on port ports 80 and 443. So we can expect. So this makes sense. This is on ports 80 and 443, and it's our ArgoCD server. So that's probably the web UI. Probably. There's server metrics and repo server, which are. And then there's 8080. Which of these is the UI? Create apps via CLI, create apps via UI. Open a browser to the ArgoCD external UI and log in. Okay, but what is the external UI? Does it configure one automatically? Or not? The IP hostname in a browser. So I'm guessing they're expecting me to do the port forward. Right? So they want me to do this. Okay, I gotta say though, like, I'm picking up pretty quick, right? Like, now I'm remembering, oh, we can do this port forward thing to avoid having to expose the UI all the time. So now I can just do localhost 8080, and I can just, whatever, it's unsafe, and this gives me ArgoCD. So there's a couple of ways that I could keep this permanently exposed, right? And I think my approach would be, first off, let's just get rid of all this stuff that isn't Ingress and values. Those can all go. Now we just have AdGuard. Sweet. So, blah. Let's put this in infra, right? This is infra. And then we're going to make a directory for ArgoCD. And then we're going to cd into ArgoCD. And here, we're going to create ArgoCD ingress.yaml. And then I'm going to forget how to do that. I'm going to go like this, go apps, AdGuard Home, AdGuard YAML, and then we're going to go ingress, and we're going to grab this. Oh, I'm not using relative line numbers. You know, honestly, I prefer that. G127, is it? It's been a while though. I forget exactly how. Give me a second to remember how to Vim, because that's not it. Oh, what? Why did? Oh, I'm literally just not typing enough of the numbers. Okay, that's silly. 111G. There we go. And then let's go this guy. I'm going to copy paste this. You have via traffic. Yes, yes, yes. Metadata. This is going to be, let's open up a new one. kubectl get pods -n ArgoCD. Probably ArgoCD server, I think, is what we're doing. The namespace is ArgoCD. Entry points at 80 or web. Yes, right? I think it's just web. And let's go ArgoCD. Rule Argo, and then the name ArgoCD server. Port 80, right? Time service. I think that might work. CD infra. Okay, can I? Yeah, CD inf. Well, let's just do kubectl apply -f infra argo, that guy. Okay, that might work. That might work. Now what? Well, I need to do one of these sudo /vim /etc sources. No, not sources, hosts. And we're going to do this until I figure out a better solution for my domain name stuff, which AdGuard should serve once we get there. And so now we can check argocd.laundry.mat. Okay, come on. HTTP argocd.laundry.mat. Holy! Oh, I would have been so happy if that worked. Like first try? Could you imagine? Could you imagine? First try? Let's look at the port forward. Ah, because I got the ports wrong. That's all. 8080, 443 internally, 8080 externally, right? So let's open up Vim again. Following tradition, we should set it up for at least a second time. Exactly. What fun would it be, right, if we ever got it right the first time? So I think we're going to want entry points. Yeah, look, it's HTTPS. So what is that? Web secure, I think. Traffic web secure. Entry points. Yeah, web secure. Web secure. And then our port. What did we do? I think it's 443. Okay. I'm going to control Z this. Try that again. Now let's try it. Internal server error. Is that an improvement? Is that an improvement, guys? Feeling when it works after so many tries. Yeah, honestly. That's interesting. Let's check our kube control. This guy. Maybe it is just 8080. Well, I can whoops. I can just foreground this. Let's try that. Because I did localhost 80. No, that shouldn't be the thing, right? ArgoCD should be at 443. No? So let's go up, Control Z, and then we're going to do a kube control get service. No, kube control get service -n ArgoCD. ArgoCD server. 80 or 443. Right? Right? So we do want ArgoCD server at 80 or 443. That feels right to me, right? So it feels right to me. Does it feel right to me? Let's try this. Maybe we can just do it insecure. Oops. Page not found. Okay, let's redo our port forward and see what that gets us. Let traffic terminate the SSL/TLS session and use plain TCP/80 as backend. Okay. What does that mean for this? I think this, right? This should be correct then. Let traffic terminate the SSL/TLS session and use plain TCP/80 as backend. This should be that, right? So traffic is doing something, and it's trying to say, hey, enter at web to port 80, ArgoCD service, right? And this is correct. Yes, 80 is right there. Okay. 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 ArgoCD server. ArgoCD server. And the pods aren't particularly useful, so it's definitely better to use services a lot of the time. We've got cluster, it's got a cluster IP that makes sense. There's no external IP. We don't need that because we're staying at layer 7, right? Why might this not work? All right. All right. We're doing a chat GPT on this one, right? Because this feels correct. Okay. On to setting up ArgoCD. I want to get the web UI working with a nice, easy domain name. The following port forward worked. So what was my port forward? Nathan, use Control R so that you won't take forever. There we go. I'm gonna practice my shortcuts, you know? The following port forward worked. This ingress route doesn't, though. I get 404. Okay. Why did I go to the top? All right. Let's see what it comes up with. Because, like, we're on the same page, right? The service is on port 80. We've got the right name of the service. This looks good. Does the URL not need the port? You did do port forwarding to the internal 80. Yeah, I think the URL shouldn't need the port. Traffic is handling. If I go here, traffic knows, hey, go to the service named ArgoCD server and hit its port 80 if this is the thing. That was really well described by me. But the redirects to port 8080 for HTTP, I'll need to check DNS. Oh. Okay, let's try that. Use Control R. Whoops. Okay. Nope. ChatGPT, the website, has not been nailing it lately. It seems like there was a typo in the port forward command using 40. Whatever. That's unusual. Okay, so yeah, that's fine. 8080 to 443. Two possible solutions. Disable HTTPS by allowing HTTP and setting server.insecure true. So it wasn't 8080, and it's not 80. Okay. How about this? Internal. So I get an internal server error when I do 443. That's kind of weird, right? I get an internal server error for that. So, and we've tried web. Can I do ports? Like that? Whoops. Does that work? I can do bang cube control. Yeah, okay. It didn't like that. Could it be that ArgoCD server wants to redirect insecure traffic to its TLS port? I think that is what's happening, but I don't know what to do about that. wants to redirect insecure traffic to its TLS port. So when I do this, we're getting not found. When I do 443 in web secure, I get internal server error. Okay. Approved backend is fine. The routing is the issue. Here are two clean ways. Option A, proper HTTPS traffic. Let traffic terminate TLS on 443 and proxy to ArgoCD's HTTP port, which is what Plus said earlier. I just didn't know what that meant. Ingress route TCP with TLS.passthrough, true. And using the 443 backend might do it then. Okay. Okay. Your original Ingress route on web will now work over plain HTTP. Yeah, so I don't want to do that. Does the URL, could it be that Argo wants to redirect insecure traffic to its TLS port? Yes, but why would that be causing internal server error? Redirect HTTP to HTTPS. So I create this middleware as well. Ingress route for HTTP 80 that just redirects. Ingress route for HTTPS with TLS. Add certs later. Kind. Send plain HTTP. But I didn't think of doing that combo. I'm not sure what this does. DNS note. Make sure ArgoCD traffic's external IP. Same way you did. Yes, that works. So that seems weird to me, but I'm going to try it just for the sake of things. See what that does. I think I will be signing off soon. ArgoCD.laundry.mat. Come on. Huh. That's interesting. Okay, that's not the problem. Too many redirects. Fair. I didn't really think that was going to work. So let's see. Ingress route TCP with TLS pass-through and using the 443 backend. So traffic ingress route TCP. Let's try this guy. Ingress route TCP. ArgoCD server, namespace entry point web secure. Match priority services. It's weird. It doesn't list kind here. Oops. We can close this. This is good. And using the 443 backend. Port 8080. What does this do? Is the CRD implementation of traffic TCP router. Register the ingress route TCP kind in the Kubernetes cluster before creating ingress route TCP objects. Hmm. All right. I think this is about as far as I can go today. I think I'm tired. And we'll give this another shot next week. What do you guys think? Well, I mean, I'm signing off either way. I'm tired. But we did manage to do quite a bit today, right? We learned a lot about Kubernetes manifests. We managed to fix AdGuard Home, which is big. And like my mental model of how ingress routes and things like that is forming pretty well. I also learned quite a bit about networking today. So I'm really happy about that. We learned about load balancers versus ingress routes or ingress stuff and how they differ in the layers on which they operate, like in your network stack. So that's cool. Um, what else did we do? Whoa. Oh. So yeah, I think we made some really good progress. I'm also noticing that these are like my end of stream reports. I'm also noticing like I'm a lot more comfortable with sed. Um, my Vim interactions are more fluid, like more fluid. I'm doing like I'm backgrounding and foregrounding things, applications, which is kind of cool. Um, yeah, I think we made good progress. Argo CD, we'll get there. We'll get there. I think I need a fresh brain for that. But yeah. Anyways, thank you all for watching, for chatting. Tim says, I love it. I will not be doing any Kubernetes, but I do see how complex it can become. I got a Linux geek in northern part of Norway that I talked to and set up a server with 500k USD. Holy. Oh, and we got documentation. Why can't I just click your link? Okay, hold on. Pop this onto the. There we go. Ah. Okay, hold on. Hold on. Plus coming in with the save. And now I just have to. I have to see, right? Like what happens? What happens if this is my last attempt, right? We're just going to copy paste ArgoCD and see what happens, right? So this is ArgoCD's official documentation for how to set up traffic. Plus you're a legend every time. So header content. Is that what we were missing? Rule priority 11. I don't know what H2C is. We might be doing some learning. It is entry points web secure, despite going for port 80. Isn't that weird? We all know the feeling about one more minute, one more attempt. Yeah, right? So we're just going to do a quick argocd.example.com, and we're going to replace that with argocd.laundry.mat, which could have been simplified by just leaving out the ArgoCD part, but that's fine. Next week. Yeah, I'm one more thing, and then I swear, right? Come on. Yeah. All right, it was worth a shot. Quality's good. Oh yeah, I'm really happy about the new camera. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, it currently has an advantage over Nginx in that it can terminate both TCP and HTTP connections on the same port, meaning you do not require multiple hosts or paths. The API server should be run with TLS disabled. Edit the ArgoCD server deployment to add the -- insecure flag to the ArgoCD command or set server insecure true in the ArgoCD as described here. Can we get a vlog from you? What's your daily routine? Yeah, that's something I can think about. The closest thing I've got so far, by the way, if you're interested in that kind of content, probably my most recent video. So if I go to, let's go YouTube Studio, this. So I was doing a PhD prior to this, and then I stopped doing that PhD. And this is the closest thing I've got to a vlog. W progress for sure. Yeah. For config ArgoCD server, repo server, blah, blah, blah. The commands can also be configured. You guys want a day in the life video? Guys, I'm not that interesting. Like the day in the life is like I walk to cafe, do some work for my day job, have lunch, do some more work for my day job, play video games with friends, hang out with my girlfriend. it's nothing too crazy. Okay. Service solver. It's the ArgoCD server command. It currently has an advantage. The API server should be run with TLS disabled. Edit the ArgoCD server deployment to add the dash insecure flag to the ArgoCD server command, or set server.insecure true in the ArgoCD configs map, which is what we just looked at. And I can't, I have no idea where this is. I missed doxing opportunity. Come back time. Nathan edges us. You run the ship. Okay, at least we have a good lead for next week. At least we have a good lead. So this traffic for ArgoCD dashboard. So that'll help us out for next week. Okay, now we're signing off. Let me switch to the good quality camera. Boom. That was our stream. Yeah, we went way longer than normal. It's 7:24. We did 3.5 hours. It was a big stream. And my brain is fried. Thank you all, as usual, for coming. Thank you for everybody new who joined the Discord. Thanks for all my recurring chatters and viewers and stuff. Plus and Tim and so on. Thank you all so much. Paul, if you're still out there, and Dad, of course. If you're, I don't know. I appreciate you all coming out to the streams. I look forward to these every week, and I appreciate all your help, all the good vibes, and all of that jazz. So I'll catch you all later. Catch you at the next one next week. I should also have a video coming out tomorrow, or no, Saturday. I try to do weekly uploads on Saturdays. Also, if you're interested in like sneak peek stuff, I launched this newsletter. Let me go to. I launched a newsletter. I want to show you all that. Once I figure out how Substack works. There we go. What the heck? Oh, isn't that interesting? There we go. My screen has just... There we go. Launch this guy. So if you're interested in sneak peeks on what I'm uploading and all of that kind of thing, you can check it out. All right, what do we got? 2 days next week. 2 days next week. Yeah. Off to Borderlands 4 for me. Have fun. Let me know how it goes. Borderlands 4 looks really cool. I need to see the last part too, of course. Off to Diablo 3, Season 36. Have fun. All right, gang. I'll catch you all later. Thank you very much for watching. And I'll